Hi, I'm Patrick Lloyd, News Director for Spinnaker Television.
Hi, I'm Joslyn Simmons, men's basketball reporter for Spinnaker News.
Today we had the awesome chance to interview head coach of the men's basketball team, Matthew Driscoll.
And we talked to him about his incredible team's run to March Madness.
Take a look. All right, Coach Driscoll, thanks so much for joining us first and foremost. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this. So I wanted to just get right down to business here. I wanted to ask you, coaches that are in similar situations like you often say, I don't really care which team we get matched up against, as we're just happy that we're in this situation. But I want to ask you, be real with me. Which team do you want to face? Because, some people have you playing Duke, Virginia, Kentucky even. Who do you think you match up well against?
Well, I think first and foremost it's just a double-edged sword. If you go to the play-in game, then you look at the play-in people and say, okay, who do you think you match up best against there? Is it a team like Manhattan that's a pressing team, or is it a team like Robert Morris that's a really, really good half-court man-to-man team? So I think when I've looked at this, and what night is, I don't even know what today is, but anyways, the first time I've looked at Joe Lunardi's bracket was, I think, on Monday night or Tuesday night, one of those two nights. What is today? Wednesday? So it must have been last night. And I looked at the brackets, and I don't even know who it had us playing against. But I started to pay more close attention. Was it going to be a Texas Southern? Was it going to be? So I really personally like to get matched up against a team that isn't a pressing team and a team that we can play extremely fast against. And the reason is because I like when we play fast, I like when we play with tempo, and usually when you play a team like Louisville and a team like that really tries to make the game shortened, so when you cross half court, you only got about 25 seconds left on the clock. It makes it a little bit more. Now, the one blessing, the flip side is, because we have so many guys that can score, it provides us an easier opportunity than other teams that they've pressed against or played against. So I guess the first part is, if it was a play-in game, I would prefer much more a team that didn't do that, that didn't, like a Manhattan that didn't press. If you're talking about the bigger boys and those kind of things, it's interesting. Calipari at Kentucky, Tony Bennett at Virginia, Sean Miller at Arizona, Matthew Driscoll at North Florida was 4 of the 5 best hires 6 years ago. And those 3 guys have a chance to be the number 1 seeds in the tournament, and we're going into the tournament for the first time. So it's pretty cool kind of how that all came to fruition. Virginia is a tough matchup because of the way they defend and the way they play. So I'd say cut them out of the mix. Kentucky is a different matchup because of their length. Though we have length, their length is completely different. So take them out of the mix. Maybe a Villanova. Maybe Villanova is the team that I think of off the top of my head that we might have a better matchup against. They're guard heavy, and in the NCAA tournament, the guards really control the game and what goes on in the game. And that's why we're obviously blessed to have Dallas Moore. So I would think Villanova probably would be the matchup off the top of my head that I think would be a better matchup for us.
So can you describe your coaching career up to this far?
Whirlwind. It's interesting. When I was 24 years old, I was the youngest head high school coach in the city of Pittsburgh. And at that point, I just knew, I didn't have my degree yet, but I knew basketball was the direction, teaching was the direction that I wanted to go. And as, like everybody in life, you included, we put different dots on our maps as we go. And as we put the dots on our maps, depending on what your faith is and what your belief is, things happen because they happen. So I go from being a high school coach to going back to school, going back to college. Going back to college, the guy that coached me and my assistant decides, we need you to go finish your degree. We need you to go finish your degree at this school because they're hiring teachers. We need you to go finish your degree at this school that's hiring teachers, but get an assistant basketball job before you do it. So I listened to everything they said, and everything they said came to fruition. While I was there, I met my wife. So all this stuff is coming to fruition and falling into place. The assistant coach, my junior college coach, was the all-time leading, one of the greatest players at this really small college in Pittsburgh. They had a college opening. I thought I had no chance in the world to get it, but he made the call. I got the job. So for 4 years, I was a small college coach. And it was phenomenal, but I was a teacher at the same time. So I had 2 jobs. I was married, my oldest son was just born, and I was going to grad school. So it was obviously crazy. I was a 5th grade teacher. And I always wanted to be a full-time coach. Well, go back to the high school where I student taught and got a job. Well, when I was coaching with the high school, we went to Providence to a camp. And while I was at Providence, I met this guy named Larry Shyatt. Well, Larry Shyatt fell in love with me. So he offered me to go to Wyoming. Never been across the Mississippi. So I go to Wyoming. I get to Wyoming. We're there for 13 months. We turn the program around. We get the Clemson job in the ACC. So now I went from a Division III small college head coach to now I'm in the ACC, the mecca of college basketball. There was 2 national championships in the 5 years I was at Clemson, Duke, and Maryland in our league. Our league was phenomenal. So while I'm there, I become the president of the assistants. While I'm the president of the assistants, I meet a guy named Scott Drew. Forget that story, but it's a great story. So we get to Clemson, we get fired. Depressed, don't know what I'm going to do, need a job. Scott Drew is the head coach at Valparaiso. He's 30 years old. He has an opening on his staff, and the AD says you need to hire an old guy, a guy that's been around. I'm 39. So, again, dots on the map. I get the job. While I'm there for 7 weeks, the Baylor situation happens where one player murders another. Scott Drew is the perfect fit for the job, and there's a whole lot more stories about those, including the one-armed bandit from The Fugitive. So Scott Drew gets the job, I go with Coach. While I'm there with Coach, we go from the murder 5 years later to the NCAA tournament. So a guy named Lee Moon becomes the athletic director at North Florida. And in 1997, while we're putting dots on our map, who's the AD at Wyoming? Lee Moon. Well, I'm at Wyoming for 13 months, we're together. And he brings me here to help begin this. So there's a whole lot more whirlwinds to it than that. And there's actually a whole bunch of things intertwined with it. But basically, that's how crazy my carousel's been.
2 seasons ago, Florida Gulf Coast wins the ASUN tournament, make it to the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament. Last year, Mercer wins the ASUN tournament. They beat Duke.
Mercer, who we beat both times, by the way.
Yeah.
Go ahead. So what's the question?
What is it about the ASUN that makes this success happen?
Well, in the NCAA tournament, because I understand, because I've been doing this for 27 years, the entire tournament is based on your first question, matchups. Whoever you can match up against, is it best in your favor, or is it a team that, for whatever reason, your style of play or your scheme doesn't work well with? And here's what I mean. If you know anything about Duke last year, what was Duke's Achilles heel? Couldn't shoot. What did Mercer do the whole game? Played zone. Now, Mercer had the rebound misses, which is huge against Duke. But Mercer had 7 seniors, guys that won the CIT 3 years ago, were in the NIT, and then in the NCAA. So they had a really nice matchup against them, and it worked well. You go 2 years back to Florida Gulf Coast, Georgetown had lost 3 straight years, I believe, in the first round in their first opponent. They play a Princeton style, very slowed down, and they play some zone. Well, how does Gulf Coast play then? Extremely fast, press you, kind of muddy up, muck the game a little bit. Not a good matchup. San Diego State comes in, and they're much more of a half-court control. Games are usually in the 50s, maybe the 60s, and Gulf Coast was able to do it again. And then, of course, they got caught up with Florida. Florida's a pressing team, a running team, a team more like them, and it was just talent versus talent at that point because they were similar styles. So the matchup is going to be the most crucial part as we move forward into this tournament. And that's why the ASUN's been done so well. It's all because of the way the matchups fall into place.
So how do you feel about winning the ASUN championship?
Well, I take my job very seriously. And not to make anyone else's job less important, because at the university, everybody's job is important. But I know that my position, the head basketball coach for men's basketball, has an extremely large audience that they can captivate for a short amount of time that can bring large amount of attentions to the university as a university. as a school of academia, as a school of destination. You know, when you put the word Florida along any school, people want to get hits on your site to see what the heck's going on. And I know when you go to the men's basketball tournament, you've just created a multi-million dollar marketing and advertising for basically nothing. 60 million people are going to fill out their bracket, and they're going to have to pick between North Florida and somebody. And they're going to say, what's their mascot? Because a lot of people pick by mascots. And they're going to say, what's an osprey? And they're going to say, besides the Buffalo Wild Wing commercial that was on, remember the osprey? You know, we were saying, hey, that's us. Well, you know what? Now it really is us. You know, maybe they can change it and put us on there. Instead of having some phony osprey, now they got a real one. But my point is that winning this championship, there's a lot of pressure for coaches like myself at this level. And the reason is winning the regular season is great. And I would never not say what a great accomplishment, because it is. And I'm extremely proud of the guys. However, Murray State today, they were 25th in the country. They won 25 straight games, went undefeated in their league, lost in their championship, and they're not going to the tournament. Unless, by some grace of God, they're going to get at large, but nobody has them going. Nobody. And they were 25th in the country. So you talk about pressure. Steve's wife's giving birth right now as we speak to their first child. And you talk about pressure. That's what we're under when we get to the tournament. In 2011, when we played for the championship, no one thought we'd be there. I think we had 13 wins maybe when we came into the tournament. Of course, we were a Cinderella just in our own tournament. But the pressure to win a championship at this level is critical. Because if you do, this is what happens. You get 6,155 people in this arena. There was the most electric atmosphere that I've seen in a long time. No conference championship will have a better, I'm promising you this, will have a better atmosphere than we had right here at the University of North Florida. I promise you that. And because of that, you've now gotten all this attention, because the people that saw it, they were like, what is this place? Like, we got to find this place out and what's going on. And then you throw in a guy like Stephen Putnam, who, here's his band member that CNN, Inside Edition, PTI Sports on ESPN. Sarah Walsh does a special on him on ESPN. Hopefully Ellen DeGeneres is going to bring her on her show, because I don't know if you call that dancing. I think it's more like gyration, whatever. But my point is, he's bringing national attention. He's more popular on campus, believe me, than I am. Because he's what makes this special. And this is what people don't understand about athletics. It's about the university and the neat things about it. Well, here's this freshman who's just having fun because he's at the basketball game. And he's a great musician in our great music school that people don't know about. Well, now they do. So that's what I think this championship is about. It's about the 8 words that we all know. There's no one like you, and there's no place like this. However, you have to expose it so people can look at it. Does that make sense? I don't know if I answered your question, but.
That was very good. All right, Coach, your team this season reminds me a lot of Kentucky from 2012.
Is that the year they won a championship?
That is.
They beat Baylor.
That's right.
I was there.
Okay.
Because I was there. Because they beat Baylor, had beaten Xavier, and then they beat Baylor to go to the Final Four. I remember the team. Go ahead.
Yeah, and even to a certain extent, this year's Kentucky team, I think your team reminds me of them. And here's why. Because I don't think that there's really, at least from my perspective, there's not one true star on your team. It's a lot of a team effort, and that reminds me a lot of, Calipari's coaching style, how he has a bunch of superstars. So do you think there's one clear big shot on your team, or is it just one big team effort?
I think you're 100% right. And I think of it as this way. Bo Beach, there are only 2 unanimous first-team players in the league, and Bo Beach was one of them. That just tells you how much respect he gets from his peers and what people think about him. And Dallas Moore joined him on that team as well, too. I feel some other guys should have been on that team and probably got slighted, especially Chris Davenport, Jalen Nesbitt. But that's life. That's the way it works. However, 3 games later, 7 days later, DeMarcus Daniels is the MVP of the tournament. Jalen Nesbitt is on the all-tournament team. And Dallas Moore was, of course, too. But my point is, we're the only team, I am safe to say this, we're the only team in America where 7 dudes on their team has scored 20 points or more in a game. The only team in America, I promise you that. And it's because our guys truly love each other. They truly understand about what a team is, and they truly understand about, here's what we talked about earlier in the year. If we can just learn to love others more than we love ourselves, and take that I love myself every time and translate it to I love these guys, I love my roommate, I love my students, I don't care who it is. But if we learn to love others and forget about loving ourselves, then things are going to be a whole lot brighter in every walk of life, but more importantly, our team. And I truly feel like this team went that way. And I can't specifically say it was boot camp. I can't specifically say it was our theme of why. I can't specifically say it was Cancun trip where we were really together in a close, secluded place. I can't, there might be some other situations too that arise. I don't know what, I can't put a finger on and say, oh, that was it. Oh, that was it. I just know, I've been doing this for 27 years. I've never been around a group of young men that's called a team, not a clique, not a group, and not a faction, but a true 14-man team that loved each other the way these guys love each other.
How do you feel the fans play a part into this?
Well, the one thing I've always said is I've always felt like we've had the best student section in the Atlantic Sun. I think they're extremely loud. I think they're extremely obnoxious. I think they get to the edge where they're borderline whether or not it's appropriate or not. But my point is, if you've ever thrown darts before, you throw it to a bullseye or to a target, and in the target, your best bang for your buck when you throw darts is in the center. Well, when we got the job, Coach Moon explained some things to me and talked about something to me, and one of the things he said is, we've got to capture the middle of the bullseye, which is the student body. So we hit it from the beginning. Orientations, sororities, fraternities, on campus, walking around, whatever we can do to help bring them in. Now, you got to have good dudes with, when I say good dudes, they ain't perfect. I know that they're 18 to 20-year-old kids that make bad decisions sometimes, but so does my own son. You know, he's a knucklehead sometimes too, but I was too. I mean, that's the way life is. But when you have dudes that people can ask questions to, people can talk to, people can say something to, people have them in class, they feel there's a connection and there's more of a campus gathering. So once you start bringing that up and then winning, because the song says everybody loves a winner. However, they can't love a winner unless you can get them to come into the gym to love a winner. But some people won't come in the gym to love a winner until you got a winner. So we were able to get dudes in the gym before we started winning, and they started getting the feeling, and then we started winning, and them dudes were able to bring more dudes. So the dudes became doubled and tripled the dudes, and now we've got what we've got. We want, you know, usually we get about 1,200, 1,000 to 1,200 students. And of course, we had 2,500 plus at the game on Sunday. So it's an amazing thing here how if you just, the one thing that I'm big on is, I'm the head basketball coach. I've been going to fraternities and sororities for 6 years. I've been doing orientation for 6 years. Well, I really don't have to do that anymore. Because, not now, but I mean even this year. I mean, I've talked to everybody. Everybody's seen me. I mean, half the people walking around campus have my number in their cell phone, my cell phone number in their phone. So, I mean, what else can I do? I can't beg and plead any more than I can. However, I feel like, no, keep going out, keep reaching, keep serving, keep trying to send a message and be a person instead of wanting people to do something, but you're really not at the forefront of them wanting to do it. And I don't ever want to lose that part of it. So I think the students are phenomenal.
So Bebe Daniels won ASUN Defensive Player of the Year this season, but that was coming off the bench. And I saw a quote from him where he said he doesn't like starting because you originally had him starting at the beginning of the season. So how do you feel about his position, you know, not wanting to start?
It's funny. Jalen could have easily been Defensive Player of the Year as well too. He had led the league in steals and was a lockdown defender, but Bebe, with his blocks and his defensive rebounds, I think separated himself. With Bebe, you know, the one thing about your bench is you want guys like Parker Smith, who led the country in scoring off the bench and never started as a sophomore. Now you could say, well, coach, you're stupid. You know, it's probably bad coaching. But you need to have somebody coming off the bench that can give you a lift, that can give you a spark, and that can score points. And Trent Mackey can do that as well, too. Jalen Nesbitt did it 2 years ago. And Jalen and I actually talked about it. And Jalen's like, yeah, coach, not, you know, coming off the bench is completely different because blah, 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 blah. So with Bebe, he starts against Florida, sophomore year. And we had a great team his freshman year, was loaded, so he couldn't start. So he was going to start him and Bo were starting as sophomores. And he was terrible. It was, I think we lost by 5 or 9 or whatever it was. He was terrible. And I'm like, what is wrong with this joker? Like, he looked odd. And he had a great freshman year. I'm like, Bebe, what's up? And he's like, coach, I just don't like starting. I'm like, why didn't you tell me that? And he's like, well, because you asked me to start, and I just figured you're the coach. And I'm like, Bebe, I could care less about me. If you don't like it, I'd rather not have you out there like that. And he goes, coach, so he came off the bench the next game. He had 17 points. And we won at Arkansas Little Rock. So, you know, from then on. So Chris Davenport gets kicked out of the game against Gulf Coast at home. So there's a halftime situation. Who's going to start the second half? So I had to actually take Bebe, and I said, hey, come here. And I walked him back to the Shire, and I said, hey, let me ask you a question. Do you want to start the second half? And he's like, no, coach, I don't want to start. I'm like, okay, cool. Because I didn't want to say you're starting because then he'd be all whacked out because you know how much kids are mental. So fast forward to the next game, Chris can't play because he's suspended. We play Stetson. I'm like, Bebe, look, man. He's like, coach, I don't want to start. I'm like, cool. Trent's going to start. So he thinks he can have a much better DeMarcus Daniels was salutatorian of his class, should have been valedictorian. He's going to be in medicine. He's extremely, extremely bright. He's an analytical guy. He actually likes to study the game from an analytical thing, see how the game's playing out, see how the referees are calling it, see how different things are going on, even though he's seen it on film or he's walked through it in scout. He likes to get that 3 minutes or whatever it is till we get him in. He likes to have that in his body already. So be it. You know, I don't want to screw that up. Now, maybe he'll come to me next year and say, you know what, coach, I've gotten past this. I think I want to start. And then we'll address that if it's, you know, if it's in the cards and it's something that we want to do. But he loves analyzing before he gets in the game. And he knows how valuable and critical it is to come off the bench. Because you don't want to have people come off the bench and keep you level or maybe even go down a step. You want the guys that come off the bench that can raise your level because whatever they're putting in the game, maybe they're not good enough to match up like we can. Does that make sense? So it's an interesting deal. It really is. It's a good problem to have.
So how would you describe this year's team to any other team you've been with or coached?
How will I compare them? From a basketball IQ standpoint alone, for whatever reason, and I don't know why, but these guys are really, really, really locked in. I've never been around a group that's been able to really, regurgitate's a bad word, but I've never been around a group that's been able to consistently respond to different questions about what we're trying to do, how we're trying to do it, and be able to IQ through it. This is a truly, I've always wanted it to be completely, and we've never quite gotten there yet here, and even in other institutions I've been at, but this is truly a player-coach team. Like, they know what to do, when to do it, how to say it, what to say. Sometimes they handle the whole timeout huddle themselves, and I don't even have to say a word. So from that aspect of it, and then the other aspect I had said earlier, they have cliques. Like, I can tell you who the cliques are and who they like to hang with, but they don't have cliques of separation. And what I mean by that is, like, if we were a group and they were a group, on most of the teams I've coached, usually the groups didn't intertwine very much off the floor. Now, we were together in a group, that'd be a little bit different. But these dudes off the floor really have a great understanding of each other, and they can kick it with them. Now, we change roommates every trip so that everybody can get an experience about everybody's life. We don't take cell phones into meals, so that instead of people doing this all the time and looking down and whatever, they're laughing, joking, making fun of. One day, I forget where we were. One meal, they were talking about, it was Bebe, Trent, Bo, and somebody else. And they were talking about football and the draft and free agency. The next meal, and it was, I think we weren't at Cracker Barrel. I forget where we were. The next meal was, we stopped at Wendy's to get lunch. They're talking about ISIS, world at war, gas prices, and something was going on with maybe the prince or something like that. And I said to one of the staff members, I said, this is crazy. And it was, I can't remember who exactly it was at that point. And I was like to myself, this is crazy. Like, these dudes are so unbelievable. It was crazy. And then, you know, Bebe's going to talk about Lil Wayne's new album and Drake's new album, and like, and he can split an atom. You know what I mean? I mean, Bebe, he's a different dude, man. He is a different dude. And he's from the country, too.
All right, so let's get into some fun questions, okay?
Okay.
Quick fire, quick questions, quick answers. Ready?
Just you?
Just me, yep. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, favorite musical act?
Matthew West.
Favorite candy?
I haven't had dessert since December 23rd, 2009, when we won the Gulfport, Mississippi championship. And I made a commitment that I would never have dessert again unless we won the Atlantic Sun championship. Wow. So here's the answer. So now I'm going to have dessert. I'm going to have Oreo ice cream cake from Baskin Robbins.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Favorite cereal?
Cheerios.
Favorite food overall?
Wow. Favorite food overall? My wife is sleeping. Hard-boiled eggs.
Favorite basketball player of all time?
Favorite basketball player of all time? Wow, that's a tough question. All time? Michael Jordan.
I was hoping you'd go for Chase Driscoll or something like that.
No. But I was thinking about Oscar Robinson because of what he meant to the game, because he really changed the game, especially for the little people. But Michael Jordan is just what he did and how driven he was. He was so driven. I love that. Love that.
Favorite sport to play other than basketball?
Is jogging a sport?
Sure.
Yeah. If you sport without basketball, I would say probably tennis with my wife.
Favorite sport to play other than basketball? Or did I ask that? No,
Yeah.
no, my bad. Favorite sport to watch other than basketball?
I love football. I love college football. I'm a college football freak, and I do like NASCAR.
All right, let's see. Favorite TV show other than anything on Spinnaker TV?
Well, I'll tell you this. My wife and I DVR and watch consistently General Hospital on a daily basis. So whatever you need to know, I'll let you know if you're behind. Blacklist, Castle, and The Voice.
All right.
That wasn't one answer, but since you put me on the spot, General Hospital would be the one, I guess.
I can never answer that question with one TV show also, so I don't blame you. Favorite movie?
West Side Story.
Favorite animal?
I'm allergic to dogs and cats. So I would say my favorite animal would be, that I like to eat or just animal?
Animal.
Okay. My favorite animal would be horse.
Okay.
I don't know. I really don't. That one's a tough one. Yeah, because I'm allergic to dogs and cats, so I'm not a big animal guy.
I know you like to throw out a lot of quotes, especially after games. What's
Whoa.
your favorite quote of all time?
I once complained about shoes until I met a man with no feet.
Good. I like it. Well, that's all that I have. Do you have any more questions? All right. Coach Driscoll, thanks so much for your time. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good luck in the tournament.